Hello and welcome to another bicycle video. Today we are exposing another scam and dispelling more bicycle myths. Now the scam seems to be perpetrated from the bicyclist, not the manufacturer. I think what's going on is cyclists that have been in the sport for a couple of years but not truly fully experienced and have lots of money are telling other people what to buy. And they are just repeating what other people have told them instead of actually experiencing what's on the road. This is another video only for the recreational cyclist. In racing, where microseconds in a shift may count, where you might lose a sprint, these high drivetrains are probably necessary, and they probably function quite well. But again, this is a recreational video, and we're looking for just good, solid components that work. So this video will be about testing some of these drivetrains I have. I have 5 drivetrains we're going to test today. And I'm actually handicapping myself because I'm putting the bikes on a stand, which means there's no resistance on the pedals. So these bikes actually shift better on the road than what the video is actually showing, because a proper shifting technique is to put a slight amount of pressure on the pedals, and you'll get the best shifting that way instead of having no pressure at all as you turn the cranks around. This slight pressure will, when done correctly, will give you a click in the back, not a clunk. If you're getting a big clunk, then you have too much pressure on these drivetrains and need to back off a little bit. So this video is going to try to separate again the racing people from the recreational people. The racing components have influenced the recreational community for as long as I've been cycling, for over 50 years. And I don't know why. The recreational community does not need the same equipment that the racing community uses. So for the last 50 years, I've been stuck buying crank sets and drivetrains that are the same gear ratios that the top pros are using. And it's come down from a 52-13 as being a high gear ratio, and now they're 52-11s. There's very few people on this planet that can turn a 52-11 at least 90 RPMs, so your knees aren't being crushed. There's very few people in this world that can turn that. If you are turning that, you're doing over 30 miles an hour. Most recreational cyclists who have been cycling for many, many years are going to be in the 17 to 20 mile per hour range. And that's about it. And if you're a recreational cyclist like me who trains for fitness, you're going to be in maybe the 25 or 26 or 27. A 52-13 is the highest gear I could ever use. So what does make a good drivetrain? Do you need to spend $4,000 on a Grupo to make a good drivetrain on your bicycle? And this video is saying no. I mean, there are differences, of course. The higher priced ones are for the racing community, and they are aimed at as light as possible and as accurate in shifting as possible. Now the difference in shifting is in microseconds or quarter seconds. There's very little difference to the recreational cyclist between a quarter-second shift and an eighth-second shift, or a 1/16th of a second shift. If I can get a shift in a quarter second, I'm pretty darn happy. Again, we're not in a race. We're not at the end of a sprint where if the drivetrain takes a quarter second extra to shift, I may lose 5 feet of distance in my sprint, being too late on my shift. So again, The high dollars for these components are, again, aimed at a racing community, and I'm trying my best to separate these two communities so that we get the best of both worlds. So on this mid-range drivetrain testing, I'm going to be testing 5 bikes, and they're all equipped with an assortment of different shifters, different cranksets, different chains, different cassettes, different derailleurs. So I don't think there's any completely matched set in this test. So maybe if you had an all Sora or all Alivio or all Tiagra drivetrain, they might even shift a little better. But in these tests, we are dealing with components that are very low in cost. I am going to be splitting this up into 4 categories as far as the components, since this is all a mix and match. So we'll be dealing with the drivetrains as far as chains and cassettes, cranksets, derailleurs, and shifters. And I'm going to call that, for this video, the drivetrain. That's what's necessary to transmit power and do the shifting. I'm going to start with the 8 and 9 speed drivetrains. These are in the test. These are all 8 and 9s. And for cassettes and chains, they all have a collection of either SRAM or Shimano. So some of these drivetrains are using Shimano cassettes with SRAM chains, and some are using SRAM cassettes with Shimano chains. So again, this is a complete mix and match. So I've pretty much devised about the worst conditions possible for these tests. So we're going to see with the video how well these components shift with the absolute worst possible scenarios. With the cranksets, we are using 3. The Sunter XCT, which I am not sure is available to buy. It comes equipped on many, many bikes as standard equipment, and it is an excellent crankset. Again, it's all these cranksets are heavy. That's why they're inexpensive. But they're all very strong. I've tested these cranks for many years. The Shimano Alivio has been my go-to crank now for just about anything. I've equipped my touring road bike now with finally my dream gear set, and that's 26, 36, 48 triple crank, which is Alivio. And the FSA Vero has also proved over the last 7 years to be extremely strong and have no problems. The Sunter XCT I've been testing for about 2 years, and absolutely no problems there either. So these are all cranksets that cost about $50. Derailleurs. We will be using Alivio, Dior, Sora, and Tiagra. These derailleurs, again, have been tested over the last 7 years, and all my bikes are still equipped with them. None of them have failed. None of them have quit working. None of them have broken. Nothing has been replaced on them or rebuilt. So my oldest derailleurs are probably the Dior on my mountain bike and the Sora on my road bike. Both these derailleurs have been functioning for 7 years now, and nothing's been replaced. The only maintenance I've done is to spray WD-40 on the pivot points. Shifters. We'll be using a variety of shifters. The Sora and the 2300 will be the road bar, drop bar shifters where you're using the brake lever to shift. And the Alivio and Dior shifters are flat bar shifters. And these are in 8 and 9 speeds too. They are all priced 50 to maybe the highest priced would be the Sora road shifters. Those I think are priced around 100 to 150. And then on two of the bikes, we'll be using SRAM, the MRX Comp twist shift 8 speeds. These are about $30 shifters. So as you can see, all these components are extremely inexpensive. Been tested by my extreme cycling in the mountains and fitness, and I've done everything except sprint testing. Sprint testing on these components on a bike, I do not do. For one, I'm using a clincher wheel set, and I've never known a clincher wheel set to stand up to sprint testing. It's too dangerous for me to test on the sprints on these wheels because they can blow apart at high speeds. I only do sprint testing on tubular wheels or tubular rims and very strong wheels. So I do not do sprint training anymore simply because I don't want to buy the components it takes to do those. Sprint training would help me in my physical training a little bit, but I'm using weights and strength training to offset that. And I also, long mountain climbs are pretty good training, and I also do controlled acceleration. A controlled acceleration is where I don't do an all-out 100% effort from a 0 or a rollout of 1 or 2 mile an hour start. So with all that being said, let's get to the testing.